the member for Harbour Grace, Portgrave.
Thank you, Speaker. And I, too, would like to send my condolences and heartfelt condolences to the family of World War II veteran Johnny Pauls, Mr. Johnny Pauls, who actually just recently celebrated his 102nd birthday. And he certainly is a sweetheart of a man. He was my constituent, so I had to spend a lot of time with him through different events, through the Legion, and of course Memorial Day and Canada Day. So our thoughts and prayers are with his loved ones. I did visit with him over this past weekend, so our sincere condolences and thank you to him and to his family for his service. He's of the Merchant Navy, a World War II veteran. Imagine that, at 102. And let me tell you, he was as cute as a button. He was a sweetheart of a man, and he certainly will be missed. But that said, Godspeed and hope he rests in heavenly peace. So, also, Speaker, I'm standing today, of course, to speak on behalf of the Social Services Committee, and in particular in estimates what we heard in Justice and Public Safety. I want to thank the staff and, of course, all the stakeholders, the RNC, the RCMP, and everybody who was present, and certainly the Minister, and congratulate her on her very first estimates. But after listening closely, of course, to ministers and the officials, and one thing became very clear is that government, obviously, as we know, talks a great deal about safer communities. But when it actually comes to delivering the results, I mean, the gaps can't be ignored in this first budget. So first of all, there are good investments in the budget that we support, and of course we've also invested in, just previous to the election, we applaud the additional Crown attorneys, additional judges, additional police officers, all measures that we also took while we were in office, investing over $40 million over several years, and the latest announcement just last fall of $24 million, and they are certainly important measures, and we all agree on that. But the problem, Speaker, is that the government continues to announce these positions without addressing the very reasons why these positions remain difficult to fill, certainly in the first place. And because the reality today is that our justice system is under strain at nearly every level, and the people working within it, police officers, we know sheriff's officers, correctional staff, prosecutors, are telling us that clearly every day. We also hear it in the media. During estimates, we heard government members repeatedly pointing to the headline numbers, but Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, Speaker, are not judging the system based on the headlines. They are judging it based on whether they can access justice in a timely manner and whether communities feel safe. And we know that there are major concerns. Look no further than just a recent event when a young man was badly beaten by a mob of people waiting for him outside a restaurant, I think in Mount Pearl or close to Mount Pearl. So whether the courts are functioning and whether commitments are made that were made and the election campaign are actually being delivered. And right now, Speaker, people are seeing delays, shortages, and broken promises. And one of the clearest examples in our court system. Even now, we continue to hear concerns about courts not operating at full capacity and cases being delayed because of staffing shortages, particularly among sheriff's officers. This government can stand in the House and announce judges and Crown attorneys all day long, but if there are not enough sheriff's officers to physically move people through the system, transport inmates, provide courtroom security, and keep proceedings operating, then the system bottlenecks in every way. And who pays the price for that? Victims waiting for justice, families waiting for closure, and communities watching serious cases being delayed again and again. And we know that recently happened with a very high-profile case before our courts. Justice is delayed. Justice delayed, as we know, is justice denied. And what was particularly striking during estimates was the absence of any real urgency from government on this issue. No significant recruitment strategy, no retention initiatives, no comprehensive workforce plan. At a time when other provinces are aggressively competing in frontline justice workers, the government appears content to simply hope vacancies will fill themselves. We're also seeing major pressures within our correctional system. And I'm going to talk about a story actually that was told to me just recently about a correctional officer in one of the province's facilities who had worked there 20 years plus and who was recently let go without cause and was not given any reason. And there's concern about where the decision was made. I mean, this person, like I said, had invested years and years into a career. I know it was definitely 20, it could be closer to 30. But that's a concern, walked out without cause and not given any reasons as to why, and I do know that that individual is doing some A-tipping and researching. Frontline workers in corrections have raised concerns repeatedly about staffing levels, burnout, overtime, pressures, and workplace safety. I spoke with a sheriff's officer just recently at a business in my district about the concerns and about the people. When new corrections officers are hired, they're recruited by other entities in other provinces and they're gone. They don't last. So we do have to address these issues and these real concerns. Yet despite all the rhetoric around the public safety, this budget contains no meaningful new strategy to stabilize the workforce, no new retention framework, no targeted recruitment efforts, no acknowledgement of the operational pressures staff are under each and every day. And these matters, Speaker, because when correctional facilities are short-staffed, the impacts ripple throughout the entire justice system. It affects inmate movement, it affects court appearances, it affects safety for workers and inmates alike. This is not theatrical. They are real operational failures with the real-world consequences. We also raised concerns during estimates about policing in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. We do know that there was a promise made on the campaign trail to reopen the RCMP detachment in Grand Bank. That was a promise made. That's on record. That's in the election book. That's in the platform promises, but we do know that now apparently they don't have the authority to make it happen, but it was promised. It didn't fall short of being a promise. Communities were promised action. Communities were promised improved access to policing services. Communities were promised safer communities. And increasingly, they are hearing excuses instead. And another deepening concern raised during the estimates was the future of the Policing Transformation Working Group. This work was established to examine long-term sustainability, accountability, and modernization within policing services. This is exactly the kind of work government should be doubling down on right now. But instead, there are growing concerns that this effort is being scaled back or deprioritized. In fact, it's the case. It would represent a major mistake. Policing challenges are not getting simpler. Recruitment pressures are increasing. Costs are increasing. Mental health calls are increasing. And rural service demands are increasing. This requires long-term planning and serious reform work, not political retreat, because the work becomes difficult. Another issue we discussed was the staggering amount of outstanding fines here in this province. There are approximately 55 million in uncollected fines. That is an extraordinary figure. And again, what we heard from government was very little in the way of a concrete plan to address it. It's not simply about revenue collection. This is about the confidence in the justice system itself. Because when fines go unpaid year after year with little consequence, the public starts questioning whether accountability actually exists. The message it sends is that enforcement is optional, and that undermines confidence in the entire system. No government can fix the justice system overnight. We certainly know that. Many of the challenges that we're discussing today did not emerge in a single year. They will not be solved in a single budget. And when we were in government, we recognized that reality, and we made significant investments to begin addressing long-standing pressures within the system. We invested in additional police resources. We expanded mental health supports connected to public safety. We moved forward with the Police Transformation Working Group to modernize and strengthen policing services for the long term. We advanced recruitment initiatives and took steps to improve capacity within the courts and the prosecution services. Those investments mattered, and clearly they worked, since many of the measures this government is announcing through the budget are in fact the continuations of the work that was already underway. And by acknowledging that systemic reform takes time, cannot become an excuse for a lack of urgency. What Newfoundlanders and Labradorians expect now is a government willing to build on the work with a clear and long-term plan, particularly when it comes to staffing shortages, court delays, and access to justice in rural communities. Because despite the announcements, we continue to hear people are still seeing cases delayed. Frontline workers stretched thin, and communities struggling to access timely services. This is why accountability matters. This is why implementation matters. And this is why this House must continue pressing government for measurable results. So again, Speaker, I would like to thank the staff in Justice and Public Safety. And again, we do know that many promises were made, and it is our job to hold government to account to see that. And again, I can't emphasize enough on sheriff's officers and still the abrupt announcement back in November of the closures of the courts. We still haven't got a real good concrete answer as to why that's happening, or when there's an update to when that will change or when that will reopen. So again, we're all here to work together. And that said, thank you again to the officials and to our law enforcement. We know the policing, RCMP, RNC, and all those organizations are certainly doing everything that they can. And a heartfelt thank you to them. They're on the front lines when there's an emergency. You know, when people are seeking shelter, it's these first responders that attend to these circumstances. We need our courts back open, and we need to support our justice and public safety all around. Thank you, Speaker.